abusuya for it is possible. Some people cause media so. They know about LGBTQ, sense me lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, plus and ema be break down. Na ade we shas here no started na dan kwa father and Ajumako Bawumia, former president and vice president respectively. Started o mabreso. Na nsense be break Ghana for twe almost sere ne abasa chese. Asem we ya asem na obi da sore kra na odwene ho se. Enti e betena Ghana ase ama gay for be ma ne be ma ware oba na oba ware. Na the medical kan was asem mu se esere mo mpa ye. Mompa na sisi uko university campuses na a business sisi again as a company no more running obi na da no and watch mabru ne bem tu ba mo na mo do so odi nipa bebre ba na yetua woka de tu payroll no so bo so me behwe nipa odi o bewrem ne de ahwe so atua woka nti obi ayere no wa ye adwuma we ye nya adwuma ye de nti marante ne wo mpa me ba no so wo mo de o mo ye te basra se mo mpa ye nra ye se abrante bi e de 300,000 Ghana cedis ya sorry bisika abrante ne ya sorry secretary sa sorry ne 300,000 Ghana cedis akwakotua ne gay partner school fees ene na toto ne ne ma so onko school abra na yere ne matifie nti obi a wo yere kra wo mba no sa ye gay busia for sansensem wi ana na sia sa sorry na ye twen se president somebody sansem wi by honorable Sam George edi ginemu edi ho akotene de kwaye basem wi na sere na basa nyina no ne pompon so na Sam George agya so amadu ne bi campaign tam o ka se President Mahama banas one science ade be ya onya sumdue e na memu obebu onya sumdue e ma President Mahama na kasa ka se oya assemblies of God ni mapa gagaye to no de on tena ma tumutumu enkoso e wona breso na fede ya to oba na wiam na be wi ni e ba ya akofado na se amafo bi kura ka se akofado fiefo na busuafo na de gay ba Ghana to oba na wi na no yesise president ye wi bibia asan a o se sisi ye church family values e school na si ye church family values ni ye hu hia se ye de bibia bebe fe na anti LGBTQ no papa enye contract we na na ye koye serew because sisi ye sa gay no I say be ye the normal thing na abeka Ghana for ye mpe papa ye mpe na da ba church zari ana akola sisi papa mpanifo no kro mo matwam school no mo sisi o mo kro ma je aboso ena mante ye no so ye bi papa ye ne ba ye nto ntimi nka ho asem papa ye serew Ghana no me say we are president His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. He is the president of the Republic of Ghana, not the president of the Republic of NDC. Oye Ghana for nyina de yepe ene de amaye. Enye de NDC for nkwape. Oye me president, oye NDC ni nso president. Ye nyina ye president no ti ade ye hia se wo ye say akofado abon, akofado afeli, akofado ni sense mo de LGBT kudi nyina si papa yi ko so no da wona. Ekokoti na amoso wono na sa wono na etwetwe sika mama fo bi de akokwa se be ya on sign e de ante ensem bebre mo de tag Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia obi oye Muslim Alhaji pana so gay so mo de ye campaign ti ano ene sa papa sa nya contract we na mo na ye koye serew ye family values ni agenda da o e kira da ye serew this time no be bia du no da ba na oba kira de we be to akwala tiri mo oba ka se menye gay I'm for the business idea near family Ibra yan for Mumbra, yan report to me and chew money from Gogunsa when you do want me yet. Near one toyan as is a Mantian say or moto say Aria Dawson. Some George ye just show honorable yes so ye just show so have them now when ya catch and say Excellency John Dramani Mahama back that's one science our bill now oh money yansum yes money yansum Esra papa ye bonya men pies a Pentecost assemblies of God home and some also. Lastly,
on the LGBT issues, I mean, if you get a nod, how far would you hope to push it? The president, your candidate, when he was interviewed on the BBC, he said he would now look into what is in that bill.
You know, that's a misconception that's been put out. And I listened to that full BBC interview. President Mahama has been clear that he will sign that bill, and he has no option than to sign that bill. President Mahama will know no peace from Sam George until he signs that bill. And he himself has said that to the clergy, that as a Christian, as a member of the Assemblies of God Church, he will sign that bill. What the president said to the BBC was in response to why President Ato Forson has not signed the bill. And he said to them, look, what you, President Ato Forson, should have done, instead of rejecting service of the bill, was to have received the bill, stated what his displeasure is with the bill, which is what the Constitution says. The Constitution in Article 1067, President Mahama in his response to the BBC was referring to the Constitution of Ghana. Article 1067 says that when he gets to the president, he must within 14 days indicate whether he would sign or not sign. If he chooses not to sign, he then has to bring it back to Parliament and then state in the memo to Parliament the reasons why he's refusing to sign and add the recommendations to remedy those challenges he sees. Otherwise, within the 14 days, he can refer it within 30 days. He can refer it to the Council of State, who have 30 days to give him advice. That's what President Mahama was saying in that BBC interview. He was not saying that he now has to read the bill. President Mahama has read the bill. It's because he's read the bill that he told the clergy that when he becomes president, he will sign the bill, because President Mahama has no problem with anything in the bill. That explanation he was given was basically what the president should have done as a lawyer in line with our constitution, because the president's decision not to have service of the bill on him is unconstitutional and shows you how reckless and irresponsible Akufo-Addo is as a president.
Tomorrow, we celebrate our 67th independence anniversary. And it is under the theme, Our Democracy, Our Pride. And I sit here and ask myself, what is the state of our nation? Are we proud of our democracy? Because, Mr. Speaker, when the president looks at us as a nation and tells us that he is more concerned about the so-called friends of Ghana, and for that reason, the sovereignty of this parliament is being called into question relative to the family values bill that we have passed. Mr. Speaker, I am truly worried the kinds of friends the president keeps. Because the president, Mr. Speaker, my friends will not blackmail me. My friends will not blackmail me with money. So if we are being told that today, and if you read the president's statement, he says that he is giving the friends of Ghana assurance that he is not going to hasten to assent to a bill that this sovereign parliament has passed on representing the will of the Ghanaian people. Mr. Speaker, it leaves me with just one quote that I am going to read with your permission from Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey says, "The Negro who lives on the patronage of philanthropists is the most dangerous member of our black society, because he is willing to turn back the clock of progress when his benefactors ask him to do so. If the Negro is not careful, he will drink in all the poison of modern civilization and die from the effects of it." Mr. Speaker, let us urge our president to be mindful of cultural imperialism.
Look, it is clear that President Akufo-Addo is part of the pro-LGBTQ cabal.
What has he done?
I'll tell you. President Akufo-Addo is the one who granted an international interview and said to people, if you have enough advocacy in Ghana, you can then have LGBTQ in Ghana. A year later, they came and opened an advocacy office. When President Akufo-Addo's father sent him to Oxford, he stayed with his cousin, the son of J.B. Dankwa, called Paul Dankwa. Today, there is a book that celebrates the 100 leading figures of LGBTQ and homosexuality in the world. Paul Dankwa is in there as one of those who is celebrated. In fact, the only Ghanaian who is celebrated. As we speak today, Paul Dankwa is buried by his gay lover, Akufo-Addo's cousin, is buried by his gay lover, a British man, in Morocco. It was in his will that he wants to be buried next to his gay lover. That is the person Akufo-Addo stayed with in Oxford, when he went to Oxford. It is for these reasons that President Akufo-Addo, when Kamala Harris came to Ghana in February this year and asked him about the bill, he like Pontius Pilate, he washed his hands and said, "I know nothing about the bill. It is some MPB." Thankfully, Kamala Harris has been sacked from the US with her LGBTQ. And President Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, who are afraid to speak on LGBTQ and take a position and take that stance, have contracted the Chief Justice to use the courts to delay the approval
it is
of
public
passing of that law.
Dr. Bawumia has publicly said that he doesn't support LGBTQ.
Has he criticized President Akufo-Addo for not signing the bill?
But the president is president. The president says the
communication
coming out of the president's office is that they have taken executive notice of actions before Ghana's court. As a result of that, they want those to be addressed before.
Did the same Akufo-Addo not take notice of actions that are still pending on e-levy, yet went ahead to sign it? It tells you that Akufo-Addo cannot be stopped by a court case when he wants to. But this one, Akufo-Addo is the one who sent Amanda Odoy and Richard Sky to court Because Akufo-Addo wrote to Parliament on the 4th of March telling us that there was a court case before the courts of Ghana. The court case only went to court on the 5th of March. How did the president know a day before that there was a court case going to court? We all know the relationship between Richard Sky and the current majority leader, Afenyo Markin. So look, let me tell you, the Chief Justice herself is today acting as a cog in the wheel of justice. But like I said to them, Mahama is a flag bearer. He has stated emphatically, the bill is my bill, keep quiet. He has stated emphatically.
Please wrap up.
It's not your bill.
He has stated
on behalf of Ghana.
He has stated emphatically on behalf of Ghanaians minus Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, because they are against the bill.
Please conclude for me so that I can go to Goose.
In fact, they changed Chairman. Let me tell you something. Part of the reason why Chairman Sambonsu, let me say it today, part of the reason why they kicked Chairman Sambonsu out as majority leader was because Chairman Sambonsu supported me to pass the bill. I'm telling you.
Chairman Sambonsu told you that?
I'm telling you, we're in Parliament. We know what's going on in Parliament. Because the president came to Parliament on the 26th of February. Look, and I'm giving you dates. 26th of February. And when he came, when he met leadership, he pleaded with them not to pass the bill. And 2 days later, we showed him that we are not a rubber stamp parliament. We passed the bill. And because Che Mensah was instrumental, Che stood on his feet for 2 days, 8 hours each day to help us pass that bill. They kicked him out.
So now the cases will be called, we have 18th, right?
The Chief Justice is trying to delay for Akufo-Addo to leave so he doesn't sign. Our children and their children will remember Akufo-Addo as the man who lied to God that he will build him a cathedral. Meanwhile, he loves gay people and is supporting homosexuality and is against our culture.
I went to do a program in LSE, for example, you know. I needed a student account. The university gave me a letter.
Yeah.
The bank refused to open an account for me.
In the UK?
Yes. As we speak now, I can't change $1 anywhere in the world.
Really?
Yes. They've put me on a money laundering list. They claim I'm laundering money for evangelical conservatives in the US. So I can't change, not anywhere. And I've done some travels in the UK and Dubai. I can't change because when I say who got change here, you better swipe your passport. Yes, swipe your passport now. Now when we say
Sam George.
Now when we say cashier, then they hand your passport back to you and like as though we and they're like, no, we can't change for you. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
In the Utu, what do you do?
Masa, you have to find the currency of the country. I just or you use your bank card. I can't travel with money. You travel and you get pulled out. Even when I travel my diplomatic passport, you get pulled out of the line. You think that, oh, maybe they want to give you a special service because you've seen the diplomatic passport. They put you in a room for 2 hours. You just leave you sitting there.
Since advocates were
yes. Pull you out, leave you sitting there for 2 hours. Embarrass you because then you've gotten off a plane with Ghanaians and people see security people come and surround you and walk you into a room, set your bags and all of that, just to harass you.
Now,
but you see those things, they don't know me well. Those things, they give me hunger to pass this bill. It is those things that spur me on. Because the more you try to break me, the harder I'll come at you.
The proper human sexuality, it's quite a long name. Proper family values bill. If you remember, there was a court case that injected the speaker from forwarding it to the president, and also restrained the president from receiving the bill. Eventually that case was disposed of in December, I think on the 18th or so. Yeah, so it meant that the injunction had been cleared. But as far as I know, the bill did not get to the president for assent. And so the convention is that all bills that are not assented to before the expiration of the life of Parliament expire. And so that bill effectively is dead, it has expired. I don't know what the promoters of the bill intend to do, but I do think that we should have a conversation on it again so that all of us, if we decide to move that bill forward, move it forward with a consensus. And probably it shouldn't be a private member's bill. It probably should be a government bill with governments behind it after consultation with all the stakeholders to see how, you know, we're able to move this forward. But it leads us back to the discussion we had that if we're teaching our values in school, we won't need to pass a bill to enforce, you know, our family values. And that's why I think more than even the family values bill is us agreeing on a curriculum that inculcates these values into our children as they're growing up, so that we don't need to legislate it. And so we'll see how all this goes. And so I'm looking forward to this review conference so that we can come to some consensus on some of these issues.
But let me use this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to celebrate Mr. Speaker, who has been a stalwart and a bastion for this bill. But for Mr. Speaker, this bill would most likely have been killed. Mr. Speaker has stood his ground and ensured that this bill has come this far. And I want to use this opportunity with the support of my colleague members of Parliament, since we all support this bill, to serve notice to the Western powers that we have taken judicial notice of what they have done to the Speaker of Uganda. After Uganda passed the bill, the sanctions on the Speaker of Uganda's Parliament and on the sponsors of those bills, we will serve notice as well that if they replicate same with our Speaker and members of Parliament, we will also take action against their business interest in our country, because they serve in this country and make money from here and take back home. They cannot hold us to ransom. And like has been asked on this floor, Mr. Speaker, why is it that the American Secretary of State has not sanctioned the Secretary of Defense? Because June was declared Pride Month and they had transgender parades. The U.S. Secretary of Defense blocked and stopped a transgender parade on a U.S. Air Force base because he said the U.S. Pentagon, which is their defense headquarters, would not support such activity. Governor DeSantis has passed legislation against open transgender parades in Florida. Why have they not taken on their own citizens? In fact, in 2022 alone, there were 433 actions in State House of Legislatures across the United States, banning and clamping down on homosexuality. The Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS, just last week, passed a landmark judgment enforcing the rights of American citizens to refuse to offer services to people on the basis of their faith and because they were LGBTQ. Mr. Speaker, it shows you that even America has realized the error of their judgment and are walking back their steps. Italy in June designated June also as Family Protection Month to counter the Pride Month. Maybe that's something Ghana should begin to consider, that we make June a Family Values Month to celebrate the Ghanaian family value. But Mr. Speaker, in wrapping up, Mr. Speaker, I just want to state that the dangers of homosexuality are grave. Persons who are homosexuals or transgenders, per statistics from the CDC, have at least 6 times higher rates of obesity, substance abuse, and suicidal thoughts than heterosexual people. This has a consequence for our health bill as a country and public health, and we cannot turn a blind eye to this.
What happened to the LGBTQ bill, Nana Yaa?
Oh, it's still on in Parliament. It's a long process. You see, people think that laws are, especially when a law comes from a private member's bill. So, it's able to be taken quickly and
be a tea darling and wave home.
And
I don't know. How does it, how does that concern you?
It concerns me when a person be me ba.
So go tea darling.
Na wudem. Na ye wadi. We yare a me call your hospital. Because we call your hospital
sika aban de behwe oba wanyem a say yenji na wo na ye de sa mpa no ama na ye de pam wotu esan say wotu ate.
So we'll now have two brief comments from the floor. The first is Mr. Samuel George. Mr. George is a member of parliament from the country of Ghana. Mr. George.
Thank you very much, and all protocol duly observed. As a natural-born man, a charismatic Christian, a husband of one woman, a father of 3 children, and an elected member of Ghana's parliament, I hold the role of the family extremely sacred. I believe that the right to found a family and determine same is a right that accrues to everyone within the context and spirit of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and several other recognized international treaties like the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. 75 years after the UDHR, the spirit and letter are more poignant than at any other time in our history. At a time in our world where supposedly progressive forces are agitating for a redefinition of the core principles of what a family is and represent in a somewhat regressive manner, the genuinely progressive voices like those in this room must rise in defense of family, its values and protections. The concept of the natural family is under attack, and a siege is being attempted on the spirit of the Declaration of Human Rights. Let me be clear here and now, sirs and ma'ams. There is a distinct difference between sex and gender or gender identity. The pseudo-war being waged by some against the family is premised on this obfuscation and literal obliteration of the distinction between sex and gender. Sex is a biological construct that transcends race, ethnicity, religion, and jurisdictional jurisprudence. Sex is binary. You're either male or female. God determines this at the moment of conception. A fetus carries either the XX or XY chromosome, determining whether it is born female or male. From my beloved Ningo Prampram constituency in Accra, Ghana, to New York, and Rio de Janeiro to Madrid or Delhi to Perth, the interpretation of XY and XX is constant. Gender or gender identity, on the other hand, is a social construct that has evolved on the peculiarities of various societies. From the onset matching the binary nature of sex, we see different recognitions of gender today across the world. There is no universality in the concept of gender or gender identity, and it is highly fluid. And as such, gender or gender identity cannot form the basis for any rights accruing in a covenant, a convention, or international treaty which seeks to be globally acceptable and binding because we have different interpretations. This is the basis for my avowed position that the letter and spirit of the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights is apt and meets the needs of our global world today. It emphasizes in Article 2 of the rights, the rights and freedoms in the declaration, and is clear that there shall be no distinctions made based on sex. Yes, it says sex, not gender or gender identity. This is a definite position and must be defended by all progressive forces. The UDHR in Article 16.1 makes yet another actual position that I cherish and implore all of us to hold fast and dear, that the right to marry and found a family shall be between men and women of full age, without prejudice to their race, nationality, or religion. Yes, it says men and women, not men and men or women and women. Yet again, this is another reinforcement of the principle of sex and not gender. As a proud African, Article 2 of our African Charter on Human and People's Rights also echoes the principles of enjoyment of rights without prejudice to sex and not gender. As Africans, the role of the family is cardinal to our society and its well-being. To reinforce this, Article 18 of the African Charter recognizes the family as society's natural unit and basis. It imposes a responsibility on member states in the African Union to protect the physical health and morals of the family. Yes, it said morals of the family. It declares the family as the custodian of morals and traditional values recognized by the community. The Charter says there is no ambiguity here, that the values of family as a union between a natural-born man and woman must be protected by all of us. Against this backdrop, Together with 7 of my colleagues in Ghana's parliament, I'm sponsoring a private member's bill titled The Promotion of Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Families Values Bill 2021 in Ghana's parliament. In conclusion, I reference the critical role that a family plays in the development of society through the development, education, and upbringing of children. Article 18.3 and 4 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights declares respect for the liberties of parents and legal guardians to ensure their children's religious and moral education in conformity with the convictions of the parents and legal guardians. This right is not given to an educational board or a pressure group or a government. It is the sole right and preserve of parents in the family unit. Ladies and gentlemen herein gathered at the UN headquarters in New York, the family must remain respected and recognized as the union between natural-born men and women of full age who have the right and responsibility to determine by their beliefs and in conformity with the generality of their community the details of the religious and moral education of their children in a manner that respects communal norms of public safety, public order, public health, public morality, and the fundamental rights and freedoms of the majority of their community. I thank you. Shalom.